Okay, so now that we have all of our posts displaying in our console.log, we are going to take this posts part and we're going to move it over to our index.js because that's where we're going to actually be dealing with these posts. So in get posts in Firestore, we want to return this. So cut that and then return it. So what that's going to do is when get posts is called, it's just going to return this collection. And then in index.js, under our document.ready, we can actually just call get posts dot and then paste the rest of it and then get rid of this post, this get posts that we had earlier. And then we'll just do that. Cool. So now we're getting the posts from Firestore, which is all it needs to do. And then we're actually going to loop through them on our index.js page. So we're just going to refresh and make sure that that still works. Get posts is not a function. Okay, so we actually forgot to put the brackets here. Let's try that. Okay, and it worked. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create what's called a global variable. So if you look down at this display comment function, for example, we have var comment equals our comment. You can't actually access comment from here, for example. If you did console.log comment, it would be null. And the reason why is because we declared the variable inside of the function. So the variable is only accessible inside of the function. But if we actually declare a variable outside of the function, then it'll be available to everybody. So we want to keep track of all our posts and we want them to be available in any function that we call. So we're going to make var posts and we're going to make it an array because remember it's multiple things, so it only makes sense to make it an array. And then we're going to declare post here equal to doc.data. So now our post will be all of that information from Firestore as an object. But then it also needs to add the ID. So we're just going to give it the ID equal to doc.id. And now what we can do is get rid of this console.log. We're going to do posts.push post. Okay, and what this is doing is it's taking our array that has no posts in it and it's simply adding our post to it. So then we're also going to create an index. So we're going to create var post index equal to 0. And this is how we're going to keep track of how many posts we've looped through so far. So now that we have our post inside of our posts array, you might be wondering, okay, well, how do we know which one it got added to, right? If you add 7 posts, then how do you know which one you're currently on? Well, you can actually just do posts.length, and that will give you the length of the current posts. So if we have 7 posts, for example, posts.length will return 7. But remember, arrays start at the number 0, not 1. So if you want to get the last element in an array with 7 posts, you actually want to access the 6th element. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 will give you the 7th item. So if posts.length returns 7, all you need to do is subtract 1 from it. Which I know that might sound a little bit confusing, but remember, there are 7 elements theoretically in an array. So posts.length will return 7. But if you do posts.length minus 1, it will give you 6, which is the last spot technically in the array, since we're counting from 0 to 6, not 1 to 7. So we can actually test that out by doing console.log posts, and then instead of putting in an index like 0, we can put in posts.length minus 1. So for the first item, for example, posts.length will be 1 because there's 1 item in the array. 1 minus 1 is 0, so we will be saying grab the 0 element in the array. So if we refresh our page now, we'll notice it's still giving us this post. So now that we know that that works, we're going to start looping through them. We're going to loop through each post and send it to a new function that we're going to create called add post to HTML. And we're going to send in a post variable. So we have not been typically sending variables into functions, but basically it's really simple. All we need to do is type add post to HTML and then in brackets send post. And now our add post to HTML function has access to this post variable. So we're just going to go to this index.html page and we're going to find this new post container and we're going to copy all of it. Then we're going to go back to our index.js and we're just going to paste it. And then we're going to align it so that everything looks good. Cool. Now this is not going to work because we're trying to add HTML to a JavaScript page. But what we're going to do is create a string var post HTML. And that string is going to equal all the stuff. And then we're going to take that string and add it to our HTML. We're going to add it on as a post. So we're going to need to do this line by line. So we're going to do var post HTML equals, and then down on the line below it, put quotes. And then we're going to take these quotes right here and we're going to turn them into single quotes instead of double quotes. And then we're going to copy that content and put it in the string. And then we're going to go down and we're going to do plus another pair of quotes. And you're just going to do this every single line. Okay, so we've converted our HTML into a giant string. The reason why we add the pluses here is because if you removed them, it would not understand that you have both of these lines as one string. So you just add the plus to tell the computer that this new line is part of the first one. We've replaced all of our quotes with single quotes. So now what we want to do is we want to grab our posts container, and if we go back to here, we're also just going to give it the ID of posts container. And we're going to do dot append post HTML. So then if we refresh our page, let's see if that gives us an error. It doesn't, so it actually does add it. Oh, I added the new post container in there. We were not supposed to do that. We'll just delete that. And then now we're going to delete, or actually, so we'll comment it out. So a comment in HTML is this little bracket, exclamation mark, dash, dash. And then at the end of this post container, we're going to do dash dash and then the opposite. So now we can still see the code that we had, but it won't actually use any of it. So we have an empty posts container as far as our HTML page is concerned. So then when we refresh the page, we will see that it did add the post in JavaScript. However, we do not want to comment out the new posts container because we still want to be able to create new post. Okay, so it worked. Now, we kept the exact same HTML, so it's not actually taking any of the post data and putting it in. It's just recreating our template that we already had. So now we're going to actually make it add the post data. So instead of having colon, we're going to have a pair of double quotes, and then we're going to say plus post dot display name plus, and then we're just going to try that out and make sure that works. I guess that doesn't really help because my display name was already colon. So let's just add an extra n. Okay, so if we refresh, okay, so we know we're getting this value from the database now. And for reference, what we were doing there is we just ended the quote. So now this is its own string. And then we added post.displayName. Post.displayName is column with 2 ends. And then we just continue to add the rest of the string. So instead of, this is a really cool post, we're going to do the exact same thing, except for we're going to do post.content, was it? This is a really good post. Okay, so that's updating from the database now. Great. And I believe that's all we have for now. We will add the likes and the comments later, but for now, that's great. The next thing we're going to want to do is actually create a new post.